Hey guys, we bumped Missy's interview for tomorrow. She's prepping a bunch of stuff for us. She's one of the few people, it's like Jordan Maxwell and Santos Bonacci, and just like a handful of others that always comes at me with shit that blows my mind, new stuff that I've never heard that I incorporate into my work sometimes. Um, for those of you who have seen her on the video that got removed, you know what's coming. For those of you who haven't, get ready for it. So, what am I going to do? I'm going to give you a video tonight anyway. I'm going to go over 1 Samuel and 2 Samuel. We're continuing in the books of the Old Testament as we get there. So we've done Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, Samuel 1 and Samuel 2. So we're 10 books in. Let's go over the 12 signs. So the first sign I talk about is Aquarius, which is represented by the man with the water pitcher. Technically, Aries begins the year, but I start in Aquarius because it's the beginning of our year, even though the new year is never in winter. That's idiotic. The new year starts in Aries on March 21st. Um, so there's key words, right? Son of man, man, baptism, water pitcher. All of these words make sense so far. Fountain, this is how a fountain would look. They make thousands of fountains like this. Stream, river, pond, lake, ocean, sea, water bodies. I'm just going to speed through this a little bit because you guys have been with me for a while. Pisces is the sign of the two fish in the water. So same with the water, stream, river, pond, lake, sea, ocean. Aries is the ram, and in Aries you have March 21st, which is the spring equinox. It's a 12-hour day, a 12-hour night. In Christianity, the Passover is changed and becomes the resurrection of God's Son. It's also the Passover for the Jews when the angel of death passes over anyone that doesn't have the lamb or the ram's blood, showing that you're the people of Aries, the Jews, smeared on their doorposts. That's how they get protected. Um, and the astrotheological Passover is March 21st. The sun passes over the equator and starts its way back up to its height in the summer solstice. So ram, lamb, shepherd, or ram's horn. Taurus is the bull. When you look at the sky and see Taurus during the season where it's supposed to be, you know that you need to put the plow on the bull so that you can plant the seed so you can harvest in Virgo and Libra. So bull, ox, calf, or cow, cow being the female bull, you're talking about Taurus. Gemini is the twins. It's the story of Castor and Pollux Troy, whose sister was Helen of Troy. It's the story of Achilles. Another Greek story, just like Aquarius. This is twins or brothers make up Gemini. Cancer is the crab, and it's the sideways moving creature. So the sun rises a degree on its axis starting on December 25th. It stops on June 21st, and for 3 days it rises to the same degree, hence moving sideways like the crab. Then on June 25th, it lowers a degree. The crab in the ancient Egyptian times is also known, excuse me, as the scarab. So whenever you're talking about crab or beetle, that's Cancer. And Leo is the king. The lion is the king of the jungle or the savannah, whatever you want to call it. The ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. So whenever you hear lion, lioness, or cub, you're talking about Leo. Virgo is the woman holding the wheat stalk. Remember before when we said that you plant in Taurus? Well, the virgins would cultivate the wheat in Virgo in order to make the bread for the year, and they didn't just cultivate the wheat. It was words like virgin, wheat, grain. They cultivated the grain, the seed, the barley, the corn. That would be Virgo. Libra is the justice. It's the scales, it's the balance, it's the just one. The reason it's the justice is because it judges God's sun as it passes over the fall equinox and begins its descent into winter, into cold, into death. Libra is also wine season, which is when you plant for the grapes in Taurus, you can press the wine here. So law, judge, justice, the just one, divorce, marriage, court, all has to do with Libra and the scales. Wine, vineyard, wine press, grapes, raisins even have to do with Libra as well. Olive oil also has to do with Libra. Scorpio is the scorpion. He is the betrayer. When a scorpion bites you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like 2 lips. It's why the mafia has the kiss of death, and it's why Jesus was betrayed by Judas with a kiss. So the sun is judged in Libra. It's betrayed in Scorpio. Finally, in Sagittarius, this is where the bow and the arrow shoot the sun and inflict further punishment on the sun. This is where the sun dies. Why? Because on December 21st, the sun is at its lowest point. It cannot rise any lower. It's dead. It's the dead of winter. It remains at that lowest level for 3 days, which is why Jesus was dead for 3 days. When on December 25th, or the birth of God's son, it rises another degree and starts to make its way back up top. So whenever you hear horse, bow and arrow, spear, or horseman, you're talking about Sagittarius. Then Capricorn is the goat because he likes to climb the mountain. If you look at the zodiac wheel on the right, Capricorn is at the very bottom of the wheel. And if you put a sun at the very, very bottom and you march it 1 degree to the left, going up the wheel till it hits the height in Cancer, it starts to climb in Capricorn. Just like the goats climb the mountain, the sun starts climbing the mountain then. So these are the 12 signs. Kind of rushed through it a little bit. If you feel that that was rushed, watch previous astrotheology videos. I go into it more deeply. I just can't imagine that I'm going to literally painstakingly explain this for 66 books of the Bible. So let's start. 111. And she made a vow, saying, Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me, I will not forget your servant, but give her a son. Then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head. This is a throwback reference to Samson and Delilah with the razor on his hair. Okay, this goes back to the story of the Native Americans that I talk about. Now, obviously, the Native Americans weren't around during the biblical times, but this is a story from the Native Americans. Basically, with the Native Americans, what they did was they used to have long hair, and they considered that an extra sense. They said they could sense their enemies coming. Then what happened was when they joined the army and they got their hair cut, they lost that special power. Because long hair is power. Long hair is both metaphorically and quite literally, it's an extra sense. And that's the story that Samson and Delilah reflects on. Now, I make a mention that Samson in Hebrew means Shimshon, which means little son, and Delilah, the root of Delilah is Lila, which means night. So it's the story of the night taking over the day, ruining the day, taking the power away from the sun. But this is a throwback reference to Samson and Delilah. So when she says, no razor will ever be used on his head, it's to keep his powers. 115, I am a woman who is deeply troubled. I have not been drinking wine or beer. Well, the wine is Libra, comes from the grapes, and the beer comes from the barley, which is harvested in Virgo. Now, these two, Virgo and Libra, are connecting signs. So there's a pattern right there. After he was weaned, she took the boy with her, young as he was, along with a 3-year-old bull, an ephah of flour, and a skin of wine. So the bull is Taurus, the flour is Virgo, and the wine is Libra. Virgo and Libra, again, they're connecting signs. So in this 2.5 line sentence, there's 3 signs. The bows of the warriors are broken, but those who stumbled are armed with strength. The bow is Sagittarius, the man with the bow and the arrow. Then the Lord called Samuel. Samuel answered, Here I am. It's a throwback to Moses and the burning bush where he says, Here I am. Well, what is I am? It's not supposed to be meant, here I am, as in, look at me, I'm right here. Here I am. It's here, space, long pause, then address, I am. God is named I am. God is I am. Do you know why? I talk about this in my What is God video. I am. I exist. I am everything. I am. A question about where God comes from or what God is a question within creation. And I am. Everything, the infinite, is beyond creation. It is beyond everything. So when you realize that you don't have to explain where God comes from, you just have to understand, I am. Then they carried the ark into Dagon's temple and set it beside Dagon. So they literally mention Dagon in the Bible. For those of you who don't know, Dagon was a fish god during this time frame. The Pope's mitre is named after Mithra, but comes from Dagon worship. I put a picture here for you guys to see this. Okay, that's the head of Dagon, the fish god of Babylon. You can clearly see the fish in the scales on the left. And boom, on the right, on the bishop, this is a mitre, or it's also known, it's the Dagon mitre. It comes from Mithra. There were 2 competing fish religions, Dagon and Mithra. And what about them? Well, the age of Pisces, right? Pisces being the two fish. They were two competing fish gods. And now the Pope and the cardinals and the bishops all wear the fish head. 1, 8, 10 to 16. He will take your sons and make them serve with his chariots and horses. Some he will assign to be commanders of thousands and commanders of 50s, and others to plow his ground and reap his harvest. He will take your daughters to be perfumers and cooks and bakers. He will take the best of your fields and vineyards and olive groves, your male and female servants, and the best of your cattle and donkey he will take for his own use. At this point, you guys should start being able to pick some of this stuff out, I would hope. The sons and the horses are the man on the horse in Sagittarius. Plow his ground is done in Taurus. You remember? As above, so below. You see Taurus, the bull in the sky. The ancients would put the plow on it, and then you would plow for the season. Opposing signs at their firmaments, by the way, Sagittarius and Taurus. Reap the harvest happens in Virgo and Libra, connecting signs. The vineyards and olive groves are Libra. The cattle is Taurus. The donkey is Asellus borealis, which is in Cancer. Sagittarius, Taurus, Virgo, Libra, and Cancer. There are 5 signs here, some with multiple mentions. Okay, this is a 5.5 sentence line. Or 5.5 line sentence. Sorry, that came out stupid. 1 to 3. Then Samuel took a flask of olive oil and poured it on Saul's head. They will say to you, the donkeys you set out to look for have been found. One will be carrying 3 young goats, another 3 loaves of bread, and another a skin of wine. Well, the olive oil is Libra. The donkey is Asellus borealis in Cancer. The bread is Virgo. The wine is Libra. Libra and Virgo are connecting signs. Saul was 30 years old when he became king. David was 30 as well. Ezekiel was 30 when he had his vision of God. Jesus was 30 when he started teaching. Genesis 32:30 talks about the pineal gland or Peniel. Well, what is important about 30? Well, the ancient Jews have their roots in Saturnalia worship. This is undeniable. Okay, they wear a black cube on their head when they pray. It's called the tefillin. It's about Saturn. It's Saturn worship. And what happens at 30? Well, that's your Saturn return in life. See, what happens is you're born, and Saturn takes about 29.5 to 30 years to come back. And when it finally comes back, usually you have an awakening like all these people do, or something major changes in your life. Astrology is very real, people. You have to realize that. So 1, 13, 19 to 20. Otherwise, the Hebrews will make swords or spears. So all of Israel went down to the Philistines to have their plow points sharpened. So the spear is Sagittarius, as I've mentioned. The plow point is Taurus. They're opposing signs of their firmament. Remember Taurus, the plow. 1, 14, 29, and 32. See how my eyes brightened when I tasted a little of this honey. They pounced on the plunder and taking sheep, cattle, and calves. Well, the beehive cluster, which doesn't get enough mention, is in Cancer, hence the honey. In fact, the honey is in Cancer because the beehive cluster is a small knit group of stars that's in Cancer. Honey comes from the bees. The Milky Way galaxy center is in Sagittarius, okay? And that is in Sagittarius. So your land and that's where the milk comes from, the Milky Way galaxy, Milky Way. And the Egyptian Book of the Dead calls it by name as the Milky Way galaxy. So your land from Cancer to Sagittarius, okay, that half of the zodiac, that is your land of milk and honey. It's not on Earth. It's a place in the heavens. This is star poetry that I keep trying to show you guys. So the sheep and cattle are Aries and Taurus. Those are connecting signs. 1:15, do not spare them. Put to death men and women, children and infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys. So the man is Aquarius, the man. The woman is Virgo, the woman. The cattle is Taurus. The sheep is Aries. The camel is Camelopardalis, which is in Gemini. And the donkey is Asellus borealis, which is in Cancer. There's 6 signs. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer are 4 connecting signs in a row. And Aquarius and Virgo, the man and the woman, are opposing signs at the firmament. You have to look into my previous work when I actually talk about the firmament. It's not a dome over a flat earth. That's not what the firmament is. Fill your horn with oil and be on your way. I am sending you to Jesse of Bethlehem. So the oil is Libra, but Bethlehem is a combination of two Hebrew words, Bet and Lechem, which means house, Bet, and Lechem means bread. So the house of bread. Who's the house of bread? It's the lady with the wheat stalk, Virgo. So Libra and Virgo are connecting signs. 1:16:19. Then Saul sent messengers to Jesse and said, send me your son David, who is with the sheep. So Jesse took a donkey loaded with bread, a skin of wine, and a young goat. So the sheep is Aries, the donkey is a Celis Borealis, which is in Cancer. The bread is Virgo, and the wine is Libra, and the goat is Capricorn. Now, this is interesting because I've taken this to another level when I've started decoding this. I actually wrote down the mutable, cardinal, and fixed signs because we've seen the fixed signs before in like Ezekiel's dream in Revelation 4:7. We've seen the fixed signs before, Aquarius, the man, the bull, the lion, and the eagle. We've seen those animals before. Those are the fixed signs. But I wrote down the mutable and cardinal signs to see if anything popped up. And lo and behold, this particular passage has all four cardinal signs: Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. Plus they threw in Virgo. So there's very distinct patterns that are not chosen by accident, that are chosen there to highlight the sky, to teach you about the heavens. That's what this is. It's an encoded book about the heavens. 1:17:34. But David said to Saul, your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and carried a sheep from the flock, I went after it. So the sheep is Aries, the lion is Leo, and the bear is Ursa Major, which is located in Cancer. Say to David, the king wants no other price for this bride than 100 Philistine foreskins. You guys have definitely heard that the Bible talks about taking foreskins as like money or as like a dowry. And this is it. This is where they show it. For example, this is one of them. And it's gross, but this is where it is. 1:25:18. Abigail acted quickly. She took 200 loaves of bread, 2 skins of wine, 5 dressed sheep, 5 seahs of roasted grain, 100 cakes of raisin, 200 cakes of pressed figs, and loaded them on donkeys. So the bread is Virgo, the wine is Libra. They're connecting signs. The sheep is Aries. Aries and Libra are opposing signs. The grain is Virgo. The raisins and the figs are Libra. The donkey is a Celis Borealis in Cancer. Aries, Libra, and Cancer are 3/4 of the points of the solstices and the equinox. The only thing is missing is Sagittarius, the last day of Sagittarius. So clearly more patterns here, different kinds of patterns. So you see, you can have mutable, cardinal, fixed signs. You can have the points of the solstices that make up the cross of the Son of God. You have so many different, you have opposing signs, neighboring signs. There's so many patterns that you can make. And I'm just trying to show you guys all the ones that I find. 1:27:9. Whenever David attacked an area, he did not leave a man or a woman alive, but took sheep and cattle, donkeys, and camels. See, these four specifically, again, why? Out of all the animals they could have talked about, it's these, and I'm going to show you why. The man is Aquarius, the woman is Virgo. Those are opposing signs at the firmament. The sheep is Aries, the cattle is Taurus, connecting signs. Camelopardalis in Gemini, and the donkey is Salus Borealis in Cancer. 4 signs in a row. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, with an opposing connection of Aquarius and Virgo. This is 2-line sentence. That's all this is. And it's giving you 5 connections. I hope you guys can start to do this on your own. I really, really do. So we're going to go into 2 Samuel, which is not very long at all, but I figured I'd want to just include it anyway. So they were swifter than eagles. They were stronger than lions. So the eagle is the ascendant of Scorpio. I've gone over this before. The Scorpio is the belly crawling creature. It crawls on its belly. Just like the snake was commanded by God, or so ordered by God, to crawl on his belly. He lost his legs after the deception in the Garden of Eden in that story. And the scorpion crawls on his belly too. In Mexico, during Santa de la Muerte, you have men dress up in suits And what do? They humble themselves. They get down on the dirt and they crawl to church. Okay, it's just this. It's just this lore. Now, the eagle is the ascendant of Scorpio. What does that mean? The eagle is the ascendant. It's the evolved form of Scorpio. Scorpio is the belly crawling creature, but it evolves to the eagle, which is the highest flying form of life on Earth. The eagle soars above everything. And then the eagle evolves one more time and it becomes the phoenix. And what is the story of the phoenix? Well, it's a flaming ball of life. Okay, just like the sun, just like Jesus is. It's a flaming ball of life that dies. But it's reborn from its ashes. It's all the same story. Two of the four fixed signs of the zodiac, Scorpio and Leo. Samuel 5:4. David was 30 years old where he became king. See, I kind of jumped the gun on it before, but they mentioned it here. This is where David became king. He had a string of donkeys saddled and loaded with 200 loaves of bread, 100 cakes of raisins, 100 cakes of figs, and a skin of wine. So the donkey is a Salus Borealis in Cancer. The bread is Virgo. The raisins and figs are Libra. The wine is Libra. Virgo and Libra are connecting signs. I mean, I just want to point out real quick on this particular one. Do you see how many different ways you can talk about a sign? You could talk about the fact that figs and raisins, that's when they're good, is in Libra, because the grapes have to come to fruition, and basically you harvest them in Libra, and then you just leave them out, and then they turn into raisins. The figs, that's when you basically you cultivate them. The figs are good twice actually, in Cancer, in June, and in September. They have 2 lives. The wine is also Libra. You see how many ways you can just encode a story. They also bought wheat and barley, flour and roasted grain, beans and lentils, honey and curds, sheep and cheese from cow's milk for David and his people to eat. The wheat and the barley and the flour and the grain is Virgo. The honey is the beehive cluster in Cancer. The sheep is Aries. The cow is Taurus. Aries and Taurus are connecting signs. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 signs in 3-line sentence. That's it, brothers and sisters. Much love. Can't wait for the interview tomorrow. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope for the new people, you don't think I'm crazy, or if you do watch some of my previous interviews, I have a playlist of previous astrotheology interviews. You can start with my 2.5-hour one, which is basically a complete intro to astrotheology. For those of you who've seen this before, I hope it makes you smile. Talk to you soon. Love you guys.